So how was your duck season? Well, we're going to be talking about how our duck season's been this time on Surviving Duck Season.
Surviving Duck Season, presented by Mojo Outdoors. Also brought to you by High and Dry, the Supreme Sling, and RoveItRacks.com.
Let's talk about kind of the season overall. How did it go for us? How did it go for our guys hunting across the country? Warmer and wetter than average. Not much snow. It definitely wasn't a normal year. Let's hear some thoughts from some of our guys from across the country.
After a little bit of reflection, I think it's pretty obvious it was pretty poor. Not just for us, but for most of what I would consider the South. Even parts of the North and the West. There's a lot of guys blaming a lot of things that, probably don't really have anything to do with duck season being slow this year. I think the reality is it was warm at all the wrong times. When it got cold, there was no wind, there was no weather, no snow. Birds don't have to leave the north if there's no reason to, so they don't. There were pockets of the country who did extremely well. There were areas of the country who did well that don't normally do well, which is, good for them, bad for everybody else that was waiting on those birds to get there. We're sitting here in North Texas. It's 50 degrees today. It's been 50 degrees a lot of days, all the way through November and December and January. And we expected a fairly warm winter. We just didn't expect one quite like this. Ringnecks took up about half of our season. And when you have no birds, I don't care what it is, you're happy to see them. And we were happy to see them. So our bird average numbers were about half of our final take of what we probably should have had for 2018-2019 season. That being said, I'm happy with it compared to a lot of the other guys around. Not just us. I mean, if you compare my numbers to even some really high-end duck clubs, we did very, very well. Because we put the time in to go scout, we let the birds sit, we let them rest and relax. They got there in small numbers. We would just let them build until it became just right. We get the wind right, we get the weather right, we get the birds right, we go have a shoot. We're done in 20 minutes. So if we have a little less rain coming up this year and a good warm summer, then we should do pretty well next year because all our water's full, all our feed is coming up, everything looks really good for next year, as long as we don't have the exact same thing happen that we did this year.
This is Captain Jeremiah, just giving you an end-of-season report for up here in New England. For Ocean State Outfitters for our 2018-2019 sea duck season. We had a spectacular year. Tons of birds. I know a lot of people all over the U.S. just didn't have the volume of birds or they had a lot of water, so the birds were spread out. That's not the case for us. All of our birds were where they're supposed to be. They winter with us. They come down from Maine, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Bay of Fundy, and the season was spectacular. Mother Nature reared her ugly head. Here and there, prevented us from doing some of the things we wanted to do, but all in all, we put together a great season. I couldn't be happier, and we're looking forward to next season. Kill them when you can. Good shooting, boys.
The season was kind of mixed everywhere. We started off the season down in El Campo, Texas, teal hunting. Our teal season in Louisiana, the teals just weren't there, so we didn't have much of a hunt there. Headed over to Texas, did fairly well over there, and then made our annual pilgrimage up to Canada, where we just always have a great hunt. But it's been tough, it's been hit or miss. A lot of outfitters we talked to all over the United States, and it's been hit or miss. A lot of water in certain places that just had too much water and the ducks were everywhere. And then you go to the next place and it was either hot or it was too cold or froze over. Always something. We hunted everywhere we hunted with my buddy Mike Pline up in Idaho, had some good hunts there, and we went back to Texas later in the season, had a couple of good hunts there. We came up to Oklahoma earlier in December, and then in January, again, one day would be bad and one day would be good. One day would be bad, one day would be good. There were places and pockets that held a lot of ducks and kept them all year. And they managed them, they trafficked them real well. And that's what it takes on a year like this year. You can't have just a one whole camp. You got to have a place where you can keep some ducks, keep the pressure off of them. So that's pretty much how it's been this year, Joel. It's been hit or miss, I think, all over the United States. But if you did your homework, you could find places that really kept the ducks. If you were just stuck to 1 or 2 holes, you had a tough year.
So across the country, pretty much consistently is that ducks have been inconsistent this year. I've hunted over 30 years, and it's definitely ranks as one of the very worst duck seasons I've ever seen. But at the same time, we've done pretty well as a club at Cypress Crossing. I'd say probably close to 70% of normal what we shoot. Last year was an exceptional year, so it's hard to compare, you know, a bad year against a great year. But we've got a lot of really great managed property. We've got a lot of moist soil habitat. We've got a lot of diversity in habitat, and we've got a diversity in the range of where we hunt. So we've got like 7 farms, you know, in about 15 or 20 miles of one another, about 3,000 acres. And so we've got a lot of ground that we, you know, can rest at times and move around and go to when the birds are there and let them get in there and hold out. We've had a lot of really, really good days. Of course, we've had some slow days as well, but we've really had a lot of ducks. It's just the ducks that we've had, we feel like we've had for most of the season. We got a big influx of birds early in December, and really that's kind of been what we've worked with for the entire season, what we like to call stale birds. Birds that know where everything is, they know where they're safe, they know where the blinds are, they know what decoys look like, and they know every trick we got to throw at them. And so it makes it a lot harder to get them. We shot lots of speckled bellies this year, and really probably fairly on par with what we normally do. They're affected a lot differently by the weather than a lot of the other migratory birds. We shot less mallards than we normally do. We shot a lot more teal than we normally do. As far as percentage wise, and so, you know, I think a lot of that has to do with just simply because of the weather. Not a lot of cold weather up north, and so what few birds did come down were what we call calendar birds, which are birds that migrate early at the same time every year no matter what. And after that, we depend on cold weather and snow north of us to drive the birds south. Something else that's pretty interesting is from the very first day of duck season all the way to the last week, we shot lots of blue-winged teal, which is really pretty unheard of in Arkansas during duck season. I have only seen blue-winged teal shot in my presence during duck season one other time, which was like 20-something years ago before now. Now, I know it does happen on occasion, but this year I probably had at least 7 or 8 days where my blind saw blue-winged teal, you know, that we shot. And so it just goes to show that the weather, you know, has played a gigantic factor in why so many people have had a bad duck season this year. So how about you? How is your duck season? We'd love to hear from you. Comment in the spot below the post, and we'd love to hear how your duck season was. And until next time, good hunting and God bless. And make sure that you join us for our brand new full-length episodes coming up in the spring, highlighting everything we've done during the last duck season here from 2018 and 2019. It's going to be a lot different than what we shared with you with the in-season updates.